Good morning, everyone. It is still a beautiful view, but it's slowly shrinking as the lake shrinks behind me. So before we get into this message, I'm going to start verbally telling you some of the things I tell you at the bottom to make sure that people are paying attention. Christians should be excited for these times. Excited and maybe concerned for loved ones, but excited for themselves. We don't have too long for a rapture. So, if you like this video, click like. Subscribe to this channel and click the bell icon and you'll be notified when I release new videos. I try to stay on schedule at 6 a.m. every morning, but sometimes things come up. So click the bell icon, and if I have something new come up, you'll see I do post my comedy stuff. These times are bad enough, so I put a little humor up there to try to lighten the mood a little bit. They're meant for humor. I'm not putting these comedy things up, the pictures or whatever, as fact. They're humor. This world is teaching us to hate everything, including humor. Don't be part of the world. Okay, so subscribe and all. That helps YouTube to know how to display this video. I'm currently in what appears to be a filtered mode. Once a month for about a week, they put their heavy-duty filters on. Now, they may do it more than once, but at least minimum once a week, and we're currently in one, I think, and it typically lasts a week to 10 days, where people don't see my channel. They don't want this channel to grow. You can help by doing the things that I ask you to do, the sharing, the like. It costs you nothing to like. It costs you nothing to subscribe. Now, I don't ask for donations on a regular basis. Occasionally I do when something immediate comes up. During the filtering times, it can be trying, but I'd make enough normally off of this channel to pay for my expenses. And I need those covered because I'm retired on fixed income. I do this. This is my, I'm for the most part, don't work. Occasionally I'll take some acting work. Some of it doesn't pay, some of it does. We're in a doldrum right now with the acting work because of a theoretical strike that they were talking about during July. The big productions take a long time to start back up. So I'm not working, which gives me more time for this and for visiting my son, but I still got to pay the bills. Okay, enough of that. If you do want to donate, though, you can look in the description below and see where everything is at. Okay, so for today, the title is, Has the Tribulation Started? As we talked about in the last video, people are always trying to do everything they can to shoot down our message. We can't believe the Bible, so don't quote it to me. So a lot of times I don't quote the Bible. I'll say a Bible verse, but I won't tell them that it's a Bible verse. I'll put it in common English, and they have no clue because they don't know the Bible. One of the things that they love to do is to throw out, no one knows the day or the hour. If we say anything at all that has anything to do with time, we call these the end times. No one knows the day or the hour. You can't say that. They have no clue where it's at, what it means, what the context is. No clue. They just throw that out. Anything they can do to shut you down, because this is the devil. Now, the devil is easy to push away, as Jesus found when he was being tempted. You just come back with another verse and they're out of it. They have no clue. They have their one rebuttal. Some may have more than others, but for the most part they have one, and they're done. And then they're not going to discuss it anymore because they're going to lose. So they just leave. Otherwise, if you don't push back, they'll stay there and be an annoyance. It's like the heckler in the crowd where a guy's up on stage and there's a guy in there that's constantly talking. If you can come up with a good, smart comment to shut him down, he won't talk anymore. Okay. So, has the tribulation started? We have to get our terms right first before we talk about that. What's this time coming up called? Actually, it's called part of the 70th week of Daniel. It's not called the tribulation. Nowhere in the Bible is the entire 7-year period, and we'll get to that in a second, that entire 7-year period called the tribulation. That's man-made to cover it. The second half is called the Great Tribulation. The first half doesn't have a term. They've just lumped it all together and said it's called the tribulation. Yeah, in your life you will have tribulation. I just quoted a verse. But I'm not going to tell you what it is. Go find it. Right now Google works and you can look things up. Okay. So essentially what we've got, Daniel talks about, we're going to go to Daniel 9 in a second. He says that there are 70 weeks. But these are weeks, and the word used is heptad, which means the equivalent of our dozen, only 7. God's number of completion is 7. So he uses that. Now 12 could be part of God's numbers too, because there's 12 tribes. But in this case, heptad means 7. So there's 70 7-year periods. If you count them out, you get the number of years from when Xerxes let them go back to Babylon until the coming of Jesus. We'll see that in a second. Excuse me. So the times were very accurate up to that point. When you do the numbers right with the proper Jewish calculations on the time, 69 weeks happened when Jesus showed up, rode into town, and did his thing. But we've been in a gap now. God always completes his progress, his processes. They're owed one more week. So where is it? It's in the future. Let's see why we've got a gap. Daniel 9:24. 70 weeks are determined for your people and for your holy city to finish the transgression. Where do they transgress? By not following God's rules. To finish the transgression, to make an end of sins. What does Jesus do? To make reconciliation for iniquity. To bring in everlasting righteousness. Everlasting, eternal. To seal up vision and prophecy. So in order to complete everything that we've talked about in these prophecies, to anoint the most holy, that would be Jesus. So this is Daniel looking into the future, and you're going to get 70 heptads, weeks of years. And 25, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the Messiah the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. How much is that? 69 weeks. The street shall be built again and the wall even in troubled times. So they will restore everything back. After the 62 weeks, the Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. He's cut off. Where is he? He's gone to his father. But he's going up there to do some construction work, so that's okay. And the people of the prince who is to come, the people of the prince who is to come, the Antichrist is of Roman descent, shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end of it shall be with a flood, and until the end of the war, desolations are determined. Then he, who, the prince that is to come, the Antichrist, and he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. But in the middle of the week, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. You see, there's so much you've got to glean out of these things. You can't just read over these things. Bring an end to sacrifice and offering. That means they have to have sacrifice and offering. They don't have it. They don't have a temple. He's going to defile the temple. They have to have a temple. Now, in the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, the Antichrist, even until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolate. The people that don't have the Spirit of God. So, the Jews have 1 more week, 7 years remaining to satisfy God for their behavior. So that's what's coming. 1 more week to be part of the 70th week of Daniel. We're not talking tribulation here. Now, I use the term tribulation because it's commonly used to cover the 7 years. But nothing says the first half is tribulation. It doesn't say it's good or bad. It may very well be the things that we're reading in Revelation, tribulation, but only the second half. Now, as I've covered the Revelation 6 before, and after Revelation 5, there's no talk of the church. During Revelation 6, where we see the first rider come in, that's the Antichrist. All the other things happening, those are bad. But all the seals are spread out for a long time. They don't just happen up front. We've covered this where the 7th seal is actually in the next chapter because they didn't mark the chapter right. So, the second half, after the abomination, where the temple is defiled and the Antichrist reveals who he really is. He blasphemes God, and the Jews understand that completely and know that he is not the true Messiah. And even the Muslims realize that. So he's blown it. He's revealed himself. He could have kept on going, but he couldn't because of pride, of wanting to be the creature that's worshipped. That's Satan's goal. He just wants to be worshipped ahead of God. He knows he can't equal God because God's everywhere, bigger than he is. But if he can get worshipped ahead of God, then that will be his ultimate victory. Not going to get it. So turn with me to Matthew 24:15. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation, the Antichrist, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, we just read that, standing in the holy place. Whoever reads, let him understand. So when he's in the Holy of Holies, when he's in the back room that's designated for the high priest. Now he's pretending to be the Messiah, and our Messiah is a high priest. And if there was a temple still standing, he could have gone in there, but he didn't. And let those who are in Judea, at this point in time, it's fixing to get bad. You see Revelation 12. Why are we raptured? Because he's coming after. The dragon is coming after the church, us. And then he's not going to stop at us. He's going to continue on and go after the Jews. Then Matthew 26, and let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not go down and take anything out of the house. We're like this. Come on, people. Move it, move it, move it. And let him who is in the field not go back to get his clothes. He's in his work clothes. He's all sweaty. Don't go back and change. But woe to those who are pregnant in those days and are nursing babies in those days. You've got to carry a baby with you. That's not easy while you flee. And you're not going to the Holiday Inn Express. You're going to the mountains, to a place God has prepared. And pray that your flight may not be in winter or on the Sabbath. Because you're not supposed to travel on the Sabbath. You can't break the law because you're in trouble. For then there will be great tribulation, such as not been seen since the beginning of the world until this time, nor shall there ever be. This is the great tribulation. This is the only time that this phrase is used to cover this 70th week. I'm hearing, must be something up in the tree. I get so distracted. And here's the key why we don't know exactly how long the tribulation time is. In 22, and unless those days were shortened, no flesh would be saved. But for the elect's sake, the Christians and the Jews, God's chosen and the adopted, for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. So you see, we can't be in the tribulation yet because we haven't started the 70th week. When the 70th week starts, God turns his little timeline thing from Christians to Jews. We're still dealing with the world. We're still dealing with Christians. Christians are being mocked. Jews are being mocked too. But we're still here. We're the restraining force that's keeping this from happening. And until we're out of here, it can't proceed. So we're not in the tribulation. And certainly the Great Tribulation has to have the temple being built. So they have to have time to do that. There's going to be this peace treaty, as we read, this 7-year peace treaty, which isn't going to last that long for sure. But they will be at peace. They will build their temple. There will be peace between the Jews and the Muslims. This is important. Only the Antichrist could do that because only Satan. Christ can't do it the same way Satan does. Satan's egging on the Muslims. That's his religion. So only he can calm them down. Jesus can threaten them. He can allow them to be punished, which they will be. But he can't just make them calm down because Satan's the one that's inspiring them. So he can calm them down quickly because they're his people. And then we can have the peace treaty between the Jews and the Muslims. They built the temple. They're ready. It won't take long. A year. I know, they might be putting some finishing touches on it because they're meticulous. But they have everything that goes in the temple. They have the big menorah. They have the table of showbread and the table of incense. Now they don't have the ark, but many think it's under the Temple Mount. Many think they know where it's at under the Temple Mount. There's a wall that they can't dig through because they have agreements, and they're verbal agreements with Jordan that they won't go into that area. They don't need the ark until they have a temple, so they're not in any big hurry about it. But once they start building, they will go in there and find the ark if it's there. Now, if it's not, this is the Antichrist. He may get somebody to make a copy. We've already seen a copy in Raiders of the Lost Ark, so they can make a copy, and that looked realistic. And when the German at the end dressed up in his priestly garb to open it, that was a good movie. I like that one. Harrison Ford's a good actor. But they will have their high priest. They have their high priest. Supposedly they have their red heifers. Are they ready to sacrifice? I don't know. They disqualified one, but the rest of them they've still got, so it's possible they've already made the sacrifice. They're not going to tell anybody. They know what it's for. They need the anointing oil to cleanse, starting with the priestly line, the land, the ground, the temple. Everything has to be sprinkled with this holy water, and then it's cleansed. How does it work? I don't know. Why does it work? I don't know. It's just part of their ritual that they're supposed to do. And they know what to do. They just need to be able to get the Dome of the Rock out of the way. They just had another earthquake, a 5.1 on the Syria-Jordan border. That area is prone to earthquakes. The Dome of the Rock has been destroyed twice, at least, because of earthquakes, and rebuilt. At least collapsed. I mean, I don't know how much of it was destroyed, because there are still the original. There are 12 pillars inside of the Dome of the Rock, one for each tribe of Israel. That's not a Muslim site, that's a Jewish site. And it didn't always have the gold on there. Saudi Arabia paid for that in the early 1900s. It's a propaganda symbol now for the Muslims. They don't tell the truth about anything because they're Satan's religion. Why should they tell the truth? But it will come down. Maybe a stray bomb falls on it, or maybe God destroys it, which is my first choice, with an earthquake. Once it's down, and there's a peace treaty, they're going to build the temple. And the mosque that's there, that's not a true mosque. Those were office spaces. When the temple was there, people would go in there and settle up debt and ask for prayers for things. There were office spaces for the temple workers. And they turned it into a mosque and claimed that Muhammad went there. More lies. He never did. All it says in the Quran is that he went west. And there was no reason to go to Jerusalem. It was very desolate. It was desert. There was nothing there. Eventually, we get what we see there. The modern era has, a modern Jerusalem. But even it's not where it's supposed to be. The Via Dolorosa is like 10 feet below the current surface. They've dug down and found it. You can walk on it now in the tunnels, but it's not up on the surface. It's been torn down and rebuilt so many times, it's not at the right level. All right. I don't recommend going there, by the way, right now, unless you can get over there and out quickly. There's a war on. Okay, until we meet in the clouds, I'm pulling for a September rapture, but I have no definite days on that. I can't tell you for sure, but this September, 7 years since the Revelation 12 sign, and it's mentioned in Revelation 12 just before the rapture. It's talked about in Revelation 12. So if I had to pick a time, it would be either in September or shortly after. because we don't know the timing between these prophecies, but shortly after. And unfortunately, that's going to put it into winter. That wouldn't be a good time to have to flee Jerusalem, would it be? God will watch out for everybody. Just be ready. Since we don't know the timing between when that's going to happen and how bad the earth is going to get, be prepping, be ready. Be prepping in your mind, soul, and spirit. So be prepping to have food to eat in case everything collapses. Be prepping with the Bible so that your mind is ready. And be constantly in repentance for our daily sins that we commit, because we do. Be ready. Till we meet in the clouds. God bless. They're out trying to cut the weeds as far out as they can with the lake being drained. They can get in there with this long reaching mower. Look at, I don't know if that's dry enough yet, but you can almost walk to the trees and it's still going down. Have a blessed day, everyone.